Move on to the next part. We will have a panel discussion between Shane de Coninck, blockchain lead, and Daniel Seuil, member of the expert panel at EU Blockchain Observatory and Forum and convener European Self-Governing Identity Framework. And then, of course, we have Denys Bornauw, this time from Walchain.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to play a little game today, so a bit not the classical presentation, and we're going to think that it's today 2030. And 2030 is the golden age of decentralization. We have established that, we reached that level that blockchain technology has enabled us to make things. So it's another area, and we look back. We look back how we came from the area that we are today, 2022, towards 2030. What were the challenges? What were the risks? What were the opportunities? How did Belgium manage to also become one of the most important players in that ecosystem? Yeah? So we are looking back, and I'll do that with Shane and with Denys to do that. So play a little game, a bit in imagination, and try to reflect how we came to that, what we all established and also want to achieve. In 2030, so a panel with only old white boys and men is allowed back. So also please use that in your imagination, okay? But first, let's start. Shane, what is your function in 2030?
All right, yeah. Welcome everyone in 2030. My role at Howest University of Applied Sciences is I'm the Chief Ledger Explorer. So because we live in a new world, in the past it used to be easy. We were in Coninck and Bruges, and we required students to come to Coninck and Bruges, and also if they lived nearby, probably they chose to come to us. But now we need to go and find them. So we have a hybrid world, where there's, of course, still the physical reality, but some are in some kind of metaverse. There are all kinds of them. And we go find the communities on these ledgers, because if we want to, we as a university, give them a degree, because that's what we're good at, we are credible, then we need to have some anchoring on these ledgers to issue these credentials to them.
Okay, that sounds nice. Denys, what's your function?
Oh, today, as an ecosystem manager, I'm working at European level to the development of the solution developed by the collaboration of research center and industry in essential sector for the society, like health and energy management.
Nice. And I see myself working at a DAO. EBSI, what Alan presented is transformed to a decentralized autonomous organization. And that DAO, that is governed by citizen, society, organization, private, public sector, has certain jobs to do. And to partly work as there, try to solve certain things, and get rewarded by certain tokens, EBSI tokens or digital euro tokens or whatever. So that's the function. Now, coming back to 2030, where we work in that new function, looking back, first the question I want to ask you, Denys, is how did Belgium manage to be the leader of that aspect, to be really at the front end?
It started very early because the Belgian scientists were, since the beginning of the blockchain, already at the top based on the cryptographic works that has been made at the university. But the real kick-up came when entrepreneurs and joined the research and development efforts, supported by authorities, to develop use case that really change the society problems on energy and on health.
Okay. I think you said also an important thing, which I also believe, if I look back in the past 8 years, that one of the main drivers was indeed that the Belgian public sector, regional or federal, whatever it is in this complex country, was supporting that ecosystem. They really believed in it, and they forced also the authorities to be part of it. And the Belgian public sector also looked very heavily towards what happened to Europe. Being at the heart of Europe, we were the best country to be placed to look at those initiatives, to support EBSI, to support all those other aspects, to be really at the front, not like other big countries that believed we need to organize this on the national level. No, look at the European level. So with that support of the government really in place, not standing in behind, I think we had, together with Agoria and all those organizations, will be having that aspect. But Shane, what was your, looking back, your success criteria or your opinions?
Well, I think that, like, regarding projects that there have been, that even all the failed ones, they contributed. Like, I don't know if you remember 8 years ago you had FTX collapsing. It was a centralized exchange, but things got better because you got stronger regulation and lessons were learned. Also, the early use cases of EBSI contributed a lot because they showed to sometimes less technical profiles what is possible with blockchain, because before that we kept talking about verifiable credentials, but it's only until you do it, you use it, that you feel it, and you know it's better. And then at Ghent, we had the energy loan, where there was a process that we tangibly put onto EBSI as the early case. Yeah.
Okay. Are there other use cases or projects that you look back and say, Denys, those are the...
I will have a look on some challenges we had, but maybe the first question was, what is EBSI exactly? You can explain me what it was?
So, as already mentioned, so EBSI only grew. So what grew from in the public sector, that was mainly focused on our use cases, our aspects of project. EBSI developed to a network that could support a lot of private and other use cases. So we grew and could make it also possible to not have all the business domains solve all those difficult governance infrastructure level and have a network that could be an alternative to the bigger corporations, to the bigger platforms. Instead using the Google blockchain or the Amazon blockchain or the BSN blockchain, there was an alternative in Europe that was safe, that was under regulation, that was also preserving the democratic value. So it grew, and it was a kind of public good that it was evolved. Something that was not disturbing the market, but was helping that market. And of course, technology neutral in the sense that multiple protocols could be involved in that. And not only one dedicated protocol that will do well, but other solutions depending on the use cases that could be onboarded. So that gave, I think, a lot of possibilities for the different projects to grow, even those in Belgium. And Belgium was one of the countries that was jumping very fast on it, so gaining that momentum to establish that aspect.
So it's really a collaboration between actors from the research, from the enterprise and authorities.
Yes, that was, I think, also the success criteria, the success story, to build that interaction, not the public sector in a corner building something that nobody knows about it, but also try to see how can we really collaborate with that sector. So that triangle, quadruple aspect from society, research, public sector and private sector was also seen in that aspect. And that is, I think, the main importance, what Belgium also supported.
That explains a little bit why we arrived to pass the third challenge, which was to bring trust to the people to use the blockchain in a way that is easy to understand and with some use case. And that's why some sector did start to build a solution on something that was supported by Europe and big actors. Now I understand why it has been so easy to start.
So easy, I don't know. But what other challenge that you saw that we overcome?
one big challenge was to find the people when the enterprise began to ask to have solution. All the provider of this solution had to manage to create them, and so there was a big shortage in resources. And then when the authorities understood that they has to support the universities and high school to develop new courses. It starts, but the first step was also to help developers from other technology to convert themselves to the technology needed to develop the blockchain system, and that has been a great move in order to deliver the solution.
Was that something easy? Because indeed, what Denys mentioned, university jumped on it and had the necessary people and skill. How do you see that? How was the evolution there?
Yes, because the future was already there. So the concept of decentralization and Web3 and these things were not so technically not that different from Web2 in regards of finding the right profiles. It was mainly a mind shift to be found, where instead of as an organization, you only think about your organization and your data and you have one big wall, you start to think in terms of ecosystems and consortia. And you think in terms of incentives. And then, of course, not every developer likes cryptography, but then we forced them to study it anyhow. And in the end, they loved it. So, but it was quite.
And why was Belgium different than other countries? Why do you see that we were more advanced at that aspect?
Because also we were supported, for example, at our university to do a lot of research projects. One example is blockchain for prosumers. And by doing these projects, we already had a lot of practical experience and we could involve students in learning this. And I think that made us one of the pioneers in delivering that education.
And I think we had also a very great problem to solve about energy consumption, energy production, and when the industries have seen that the traceability and all the advantages of the blockchain to enable a smart grid and so on, the research made a solution, and we began to be a world leader on that subject.
So it was an important use case that we tackled. Now also looking and reflecting towards the public sector, it's also changed in the past 10 years. We evolved from a centralized model towards a decentralized. What is your view, Denys, on also how the government changed and the public sector changed?
The public sector has had a tremendous need to go digital. And have the citizen involved in this transformation. And when the wallet came with a solution that could be used very easily and linked to the solution of the provider for healthcare, for example, it began more easy to have the long-term reflection on the system to be built for the next generation of governance.
Mm-hmm. And what we also saw, I think, is, of course, way back, we always think, okay, the public sector needs to solve this. We need to have a public sector agency. We, of course, have evolved towards other kind of organization where citizens, corporations, or as other aspects, organized themselves and also took roles. In that decentralized world, it was possible. The decentralized autonomous organization also was that certain citizens came to organize themselves and take up other roles, so that the government also should take their really core activities in that place. There's also an activity that Belgium also supported, and we also saw the fruit of those kind of things. But Shane, how is your view on the change of the government?
I think the government really became a source of empowerment, where they look to find the right ground for communities to exist, for citizens to own their own data, and I think that's the biggest role they play in this context to make it possible, and to also make sure that there cannot be scams towards the citizens to protect them, because it remains about space, even in 2030.
Yeah. And another big challenge, what is your view, how we did that on the merge about the digital euro and the digital identity? How did we as Belgium manage to do there? Sorry for the difficult question.
Okay. How do we manage that?
Because in 2022, that was one of the biggest challenge, and the biggest society aspect to do that, but 10 years later,
we managed in collaboration with every citizen, every politics, and in collaboration with other countries in Europe.
Because that was indeed a very big challenge and a risk that we need to ensure that the trust in society was there back, because those wallets that we offer need to be trusted, and we need to enhance the privacy towards citizens, that they can use those kind of things and enter the digital world. So I think maybe we can also discuss a bit the risk that we tackle. I think that was one of the risks. Do we see other risks, maybe Shane, that we have tackled and we have solved?
That's a good question. I think one of those that we have solved quite well is decentralization, but it remains hard because it's decentralization and ease of use, they are conflicting, and still not every citizen is willing to remember 12 words or 24 words and not lose them, because else they will be very sad that we can't tell them that there's no way back. So I think that's still an ongoing challenge that we have in 2030.
And maybe to close and to have the last aspect, so we are now in 2030, looking back and further. One of the challenges that we still have is how we will deal all those aspects in the metaverse, which was already 10 years ago a big topic, but still companies, organizations are struggling. How do you see that aspect, and what kind of role could Belgium play in that new virtual reality?
I would say when we will be 20 years more old, it will be very good to manage this kind of meeting within our Web3 studio and use all the new kind of services that will be built on that new way of making internet, which is using mainly decentralized system.
Indeed, because that's a reflection we need to make, that now we are talking about replacing certain physical interaction or supporting them, but we face an even bigger challenge. And I think Helen has also mentioned that at a certain moment, and other speakers, we need to be ready to also interact in that new world. NFTs, all those aspects, the metaverse aspect will be also having. And I strongly believe that even in 2050, that blockchain can be a part of that. It's an essential technology that can help us to interact in a safe, secure way, and also that the node ownership can be enforced. Shane, some words on thoughts on that?
Yes, I agree. I think it's all about empowerment. I think now it's called a blockchain. If there's a circle chain that's better than a blockchain, then put it in a circle. I think the most important thing is that what blockchain brings, it's integrity, and in the end it empowers the individual. It makes them less, like for example, for food they can trust the source of the food. For credentials, they can prove at the other side of the world that it was a real credential. I think it should in the end always be about bettering the life for individuals.
Okay, thank you very much. So maybe go back to 2022. That is to say that. So we have the experiment to think, okay, what would we look at and see if we look back? But of course, and using also a code, maybe you can go back to the code. I think Abraham Lincoln said it very good. I predict in the future, the easiest way to do that is to create it. I think we are now in the possibility to create that future. So let's get used to, let's get do it and really act and make the future today. Thank you very much.